Hey there, welcome back to Teeth Matter, a podcast where we dive into real conversations about how to navigate your dental career. And I'm your host, Ellie Halabian, DDS. And today I want to share something with you that is personal and pivotal in my journey. And it's the fact that I recently made a big decision. And that decision was to quit one of my jobs. And no, I didn't do it abruptly. It wasn't like a spur of a moment kind of thing. I actually stayed at this job for a year despite being frustrated. And some of you might ask why. And the reason why is because I wanted to give myself the opportunity to grow. Someone once told me that you should stay in a practice for over a year so you can see your recare patients. And I did just that. And I'm very glad that I did that because it allowed me to evaluate my restorative work. How did my class 2s look radiographically when they came back? How did my endo treatments hold up? How did the margins on that crown look like? Did it last? And all of it was very humbling, very humbling. At first, I was really hard on myself because I would see these recare patients and I take a look at my x-ray and I started to think of my x-ray as my signature, right? Like my signature piece on this art that I created. And when you look at the tooth clinically, it might look like a tooth, but I started to care what it looked like underneath. And when I saw the class 2s on the x-rays and I saw voids or open margins, I felt like a major failure. I thought to myself, like, how can I, having graduated dental school, not know how to do a simple procedure in day-to-day dentistry? And I was very, very frustrated from it. But here's the thing that I learned about failure. It's only failure if you don't learn from it. Hey, Teeth Matter listeners, you know I'm all about small changes that lead to big impact. And when it comes to oral health, that all starts with flossing. That's why I love Cocoa Floss. It's not your average floss. It's textured, it grabs plaque more effectively, and the tropical scents like coconut and mint make flossing feel less like a chore. Whether you're refreshing your own routine or looking for something your patients will actually use, Cocoa Floss is the perfect way to make that meaningful change. Use code TM20 at checkout on cocofloss.com for 20% off your next purchase. So near the end of my time at this office, I started implementing changes to improve my outcomes. The first thing I did was I started to make a habit of taking post-op x-rays after every class 2. And that was something that I learned from my friend, Dr. Stephen Liu. And he does this pre and post intraoral images and x-rays. And I've been able to see him grow clinically. And I thought, okay, I want to be just like him. And so I wanted to hold myself accountable. And I did that. And it's been a huge, huge help. The next thing I did was I changed my restorative technique. I got better at isolation. I stopped using bonding as a wetting resin because I started to see voids or what appear as voids in my radiographs. And then I also started using a V3 matrix, which allowed for better contour, better anatomy. And then so every time after that, when I took a post-op x-ray, I could see my progress and my restorations were getting better. And I started to look forward to the x-ray instead of fear the x-ray. So I ended up going out of that office with a bang. Like the last day there, I couldn't be more proud of the work that I did. But another moment of growth when leaving that office was the confrontation that I had with my boss, like telling my boss that I no longer wanted to be there. So quitting a job is like, you're always going to have this tough conversation, but it's one that most people shy away from. And confrontation can feel uncomfortable, but it doesn't have to be scary. So the key is to actually look at your work environment objectively. Like ask yourself, am I learning in this environment? Am I earning in this environment? If the answer to these two questions is no, then that job isn't serving your growth anymore. So when it comes to having that conversation with your boss, like go into the conversation knowing your worth, know what you're adding to that practice, understand your value in the workplace and what you're willing to compromise if your employer starts to negotiate. So get clear on that so that you can approach the conversation with confidence. And for me, when the conversation happened, I knew that the job wasn't aligned with my goals anymore. And so once that decision was made, it actually gave me a sense of relief and clarity. And so those were two, I guess, moments of growth or two realizations that I had when I left this practice. And since having left this practice, which was only recently, I've had time to lean into other things. And one of the coolest things I did recently was go to LA, not for fun, but it turned out to be a lot of fun. It was for the LA Dental Symposium. And so if you haven't heard of it, it is probably one of the coolest conferences I've been to. It is very intimate. So it's not like your typical conference. Everyone there is like top of their field, innovative, ambitious, passionate. And for the first time, I was alert during the whole conference. Like, I don't know about you, but usually when I go to a CE course, I'm like falling asleep by lunchtime. But this time I was wide awake. I was wired. And the energy there is just contagious. And so, like I said, there's so many people there, so many different experts. But one of the experts that I'm going to point out is Dr. Schiffenhaus. And the reason why I bring up his name is because he's only graduated dental school 8 years ago. So that's fairly recent. And in the 8 years, he has made a name for himself. During his presentation, he talked about how he was doing dentistry and feeling overwhelmed and burnt out and thought about how to do dentistry differently. That's when he invested in himself and started to learn about immediate dental sealing, IDS. And since doing that, he's able to now do work that is reproducible, that is predictable, and that is productive. And he's basically revolutionized the way he does treatment and provides his patients same-day treatment. And hearing him talk about his process and seeing how passionate he was really was inspiring. And so it made me realize something important, and that is you have to invest in yourself. For a long time, I thought school is so expensive. Like, I went to dental school with $500,000 in loans. Like, how can I justify paying another $6,000, another $10,000, another $20,000 for a CE course? But these courses are just not about an expense. They're an investment in your future. So when you take an advanced course, you're not just learning a new technique. You're gaining confidence in your treatment planning, in your delivery, in your ability to navigate tricky situations. You're just expanding your toolbox so that when the time comes, you have exactly what you need to give your patients the best care possible. And all of this comes down to with being intentional. What interests you as a dentist and what excites you? And that's what you have to lean into. For me, the past year has been quite a journey of growth. I left a job that wasn't serving me, but I took so much with me. Lessons, skills, a renewed sense of what I want in my career. And through investing in myself, whether it's a CE course or attending an inspiring conference like LA Dental Symposium, I'm finding ways to level up and love what I do even more. So if you're listening and feeling stuck, ask yourself, are you in a place that allows you to thrive? And if not, can you take steps, even small steps, to change that? Thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Teeth Matter. If this resonated with you, share it with a friend or a colleague who might need to hear it. And don't forget to follow the podcast for more honest conversations about dentistry. Until next time, keep learning and keep growing. Cheers.